what is it about art and storytelling that is so healing and connecting for people?
I mean, any of us could take it. We could all collaboratively answer. For me, and Haley would agree, we talk about it all of the time. The storytelling piece was the bridge that builds the bond. Because when we were all virtual for our very first session, it wasn't until I told a story that pulled, because first they were like, oh, a pretty lady on the screen, she's cute. And then it was, thank you. But then when I told a very short snippet of why it was valuable to me, I firmly believe when we say the names of those we love and that gave us the strength and the wisdom to be where we are. And Vicki Renee Arnett was my aunt, but my mother. She mothered me for my entire life and my children. And I laid her to rest 3 days before we started our first cohort. And we had done a lot of work to get the grant, to get started. And I had been through a lot, but I had a made up mind that I was the daughter of Vicki Renee Arnett, and she would want me to build a community so that these people wouldn't be isolated. And in showing up for them, I was showing up for her. And so I gave a brief 3-minute story about how she crocheted every single thing I had, and that I had 80 pairs of socks with the most elaborate patterns on them. And right before she passed on March the 11th, she had spent a few months before that nonstop crocheting for me. And I didn't understand why she kept texting and calling. Is the color right? Is the pattern right? And I'm thinking, you are a master at this. Everything you do is right. But she kept, and she was really adamant, and she shipped all 20 of them to me from Tulsa. And of course, they were all beautiful. And I didn't understand why it was so important that she finished them till I realized that it would be the last thing she was able to do for me in this life. And I told them that story. And then all the walls come tumbling down. And then everybody wants to share their story. And then young and old, now we're all invested, because now we have shared our history and our pain, and we are willing to figure out, how did you show up? Because I had shown up fully, and they were like, I don't understand how you're still doing it. And I was like, give me 6 weeks. And we walk, and that's where we start. It is about, storytelling is the gateway. You gotta build a bond on something, and it requires you to be vulnerable and honest and authentic. And I think that it is how we have, whether it is a digital story, whether we are collaging, it is the launching pad for a lasting connection.
That's a really good answer. How about the arts, Maurice? How do you see the arts being significant, if at all, to the way that we connect with one another?
Well, I think that just like storytelling, the arts, they provide a platform for intimacy, right? And so when we think about like isolation, what the burden of isolation is the lack of intimacy, right? Or the desire to commune and, needing and wanting a way or a permission or a gateway drug in order to be, that. And I look at, well, the first thing we do when we walk in a room full of people, at least in my head, I'm thinking, who are these people, right? And then I'll later want to know what they are, like what their roles in like life society are, but kind of who are they? So I feel like art is what allows us to do that. And I think it's a great ship in that we can, it's safe, right? We can be there as a creator or as a receiver, and not allow it to kind of like transform and take us. Really, what I just, as one of the coaches at Creative Strategies for Change at CSC, we just did a 6-month cohort with folks doing this piece around like leadership development for folks engaged in social justice work at the intersection of mental health, right? And within about 2 months into the program, what the call was for people wanting just to come together and do art. And what we learned was that, so everybody in this cohort, really just wanted to meet other people. Well, they have their interests too, but they just wanted to meet other people that were like-minded. And what they wanted to do was create art and collaborate and be intimate with each other, right? And so, we had to figure out, change our curriculum a little bit, to figure that one out in order to be responsive to our needs. So I feel like art is a way that I think gives us freedom, right, to explore intimacy without fear.
I agree. Can I add to that? I just really feel, no, I just wanted to say also, I hear us often say art saves lives, and people don't express how that is. I am a poet, and I have been writing poetry since I was 9 years old. And art was something that I could weaponize. I could use my words to fight when my hands didn't work. What I figured out was how to move systems and people with a gift. And I think art does the same thing. It is a vehicle for moving people and things with a gift.
I'll add to it too. I think that a lot of times people downplay and say, oh, I'm not an artist. Oh, I'm not creative, right? And then when you engage them in the act of art, they find this spark and this beauty in themselves. And especially during these times where, as you were saying, like it is a way to create that sense of intimacy. There is such a deep, deep level of isolation that has existed before COVID, but has been exacerbated and finally got a spotlight, which has dimmed, unfortunately. But over the last couple of years, it's there. And art really provides that doorway, as you were saying, for folks to be able to just release and tap into this inner peace and this spark that we have and create something. It's an amazing, amazing vehicle. And I think sometimes it takes nothing but a piece of construction paper and a crayon, all the way up to, much more, different types of tools and all of that, but it's fully accessible. And it's really beautiful what happens when you bring together the generations around it.
Yes, I'd love to now circle to that. So through storytelling and art and the intergenerational connection, that is like all of the magic of, or not just, as we've already covered, it's like three really important and significant pieces of CHTA. So how does intergenerational connection, what is the magic there that helps young people and older adults alike? Like, what is it about getting those two generations or two separate generations together in a space like that? How does that help?
I think sometimes it can be as simple as recognizing something else in the other person that is familiar to you. With intergenerational connections, we often have this belief that, oh, I can't talk to an older person, or, oh, I have nothing in common with a younger person. And so being in that non-judgmental creative space, they can recognize the spark in each other and then start to explore that.
Have you seen like any stories you want to share? We do have to wrap up here, I'm pretty sure.
There's so many. I will share one. Particularly, we were doing Adorned in Affirmation was a workshop that so I created a list of things I wanted to see happen, and then I went and picked friends who could do that to facilitate it. And Adorned in Affirmations was simply creating jewelry and art that we could wear that gave us strength. My friends make most of my jewelry, almost all of it. And so I had Jennifer Roop come in and teach everyone how to make earrings or keychains or whatever they wanted. And we had over 35 people show up for the very first session. And they came in, and we had people that were 6 years old, 94. And what you would see is one of our older adults would make something absolutely amazing. And the artist in the youth has forgotten about the fact that we don't have anything in common and flocked to their art. And now they're talking. Because, oh my God, it's so beautiful. And how did you do that? And then they're like, I can show you how I did it. And then next thing you know, the two of them are now best friends, and they're paired off, creating together repeatedly at every event. And I watched it over and over and over again. The seeing each other's art eliminated all the other barriers, because the artist in one would respond to the artist in the other. More than anything, I am just very grateful to be in community with people who believe in the work that we do and the vision, and that give me hope that we can continue to do this, and we can build capacity, and we can make a stronger community.